So I probably have some things that I need to talk about, and I've got a new pillow there, and Rex, and anyway, I bought a new. Oh, it was only £2. Well, it was weird because there was a £2 one, and I bought this one as well because I've got quite a lot of these, but they're kind of like bed jumpers, so they're like really stretchy and superly soft, really really soft. And they were only £2, and I got this one as well. I've got quite a few, but most of them are like Christmassy, and I realised that if I'm not wearing the Christmassy ones, then I don't really have any others. I mean, I have loads and loads of ones that are like this, but they're not like as stretchy and soft, and so they're really nice. And I went to buy one, and then they had it, and then I saw a blue one which I really wanted. Well, I didn't really want it. I didn't want it at first because it had like a weird like cartoon on it, some sort of Monsters Inc. thing, but it was like a little grey one. But yeah, I went back for it, and they didn't actually have it any longer. But I found a second one of these, so I got two of them. But yes, and I actually want to show last week. When I went to charity shopping, I found this. They were all in original packing, so that even though they were in a charity shop, they were brand new and still. But look, it's got like a little that one, and then I also got this one. They're perfect for sunbathing, and I can show you all my other ones that I've got. That one's kind of a cute one, and then the Paris ones, and I got that one. So I'm building up my collection of eye things, and I look messy, but yes, some things that are on my mind. I guess housing is just such an important thing, so I just kind of wanted to say, I can't remember if I've even said this in a video, but I know there was a time where my sister, the person living in, she would stay there for about 6 months, I think, or it might have been a year, but I think it was only 6 months, and her tenancy was coming to an end, and the person that she was living with said, I don't want to extend the lease. You've left the freezer door open, which got the floor covered in, and she used to come in late at night and stomp on the floor, and she would often wear these really big boots that would leave mud all over the place, and then there was just like lots of different things, like using the washing machine when it was half empty or something, and not eating properly, eating just plain pasta with a tiny bit of cheese or something like that. Like she did a few things like this, and this kind of annoyed her, so she didn't want to extend. And then on the day that she was supposed to leave, she didn't leave, and the woman called the police and got her to be escorted. And to be honest, I think that is fair, and that is what actually should happen. If the reason why housing market is expensive is because a lot of people don't want to pay the market rate, hence they try and find ways to try and avoid paying the market rate, e.g. they go to get their rent taken off because they don't have enough money or whatever. But by doing this, the government don't realise that they're actually increasing the rent, because people who can't afford it, they need to move out so that other people can move in, and this is what keeps the house market low. If you stay in and the house market starts rising, and you can't afford it, and you just get taxpayers' money to help you afford it, then you won't be able to move out, and then the market will continue rising even higher, which would explain why it's now £450 more each month than explains why it's £450 each month each year, just because every month it's that much more, and I think it's because of this unfair marketing. But the idea that there should be some sort of proper regulation on the houses where you have the set market, the Zoopla or something. Zoopla has this thing where you can find out how much your rental should be worth. Now, if Zoopla came and worked with the government and came up with some sort of scheme where the housing market is fair and even for everyone, if you can't afford to stay in your house, in the place that you're staying in, your only choice is to move to a smaller place. I know that kids do need separate bedrooms if they're a boy and girl, but you can divide a room into half so that you turn a small bedroom. David, can you call back in 5 seconds? I'm just recording something. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So yeah, the house market. If you do something like that, like get people to move into smaller properties. If they can't afford the growing market, they need to move out and this will actually stop the market from rising. You know, if people can't afford to pay rent, technically the tax money should be, some of the money that you make on rent should be going towards tax. And so if people start saying, oh, I can't afford this month, I can't afford this month, you know, the tax money is losing out, because the tax, you know, the person who owns the house, they might have a huge mortgage to pay off, and they might have you know, the tax money, taxpayers, if you rent out a house, you should be paying tax per month, and therefore if you've got a tenant in there that stops paying rent, technically the tax man is also losing out. Say if you're making £100 or £900 a month, you know, technically 100 of that should be taxed, because they take a quarter. I mean, I really think the tax should be more lower, but right now it is very high, and I think maybe it's high because of things like housing is definitely a big problem, with the house market going up so much. And if the taxpayer was a bit smarter, the tax man was a bit smarter and realized that actually they could make a huge amount of money on renting out properties, you know, they shouldn't have a market, you know, where people don't even have to claim. You know, there's people that are renting out houses and there's no set way of actually making sure that they are paying rent on it. You know, if I buy the rest of Sophie's house, and we sell it, you know, they will probably make sure that tax has been paid on it, and it has been on my part, but it hasn't been on Sophie's part. She's incompetent. She doesn't know how to do it. She's paying tax on it when it comes to her jobs and stuff, but when it comes to the 6,000 that she's made each year, you know, there probably should be about £1,000 tax each year, and she hasn't paid it. And okay, when we sell the house, I'm sure there's a way of figuring out how to do it, but I can't be paying other people's tax for them. And her not paying tax on this house kind of made me realize that anyone could be renting out a house and not paying tax on it. And well, if the reason why people aren't paying tax on it is because of there's a small possibility that the person living in there might just say, oh, I can't afford this month's rent, or I can't afford next month's, and then you have this difficulty of being able to get them out, because tenants have, you know, all these, they have rights apparently, and you know, if you own somewhere and you've got a big mortgage and you need them to pay the rent so you can pay off the mortgage, you know, I'm like what my sister's partner's in, you know, he's got a house in Portugal, and he can't, and he's paying a huge mortgage on it, but the people living in there haven't paid the mortgage in over a year, and so he hasn't been able to pay the mortgage. They haven't paid the rent in over a year, so he can't pay the mortgage, and now he can't take out another mortgage because of something that wasn't his fault. And I think this is completely unfair. I don't know how it works in all the different countries. I maybe some people, some countries have figured out better than others, but you know, what happens if the tenant just refuses to not pay? You know, I've seen some programs where someone said that there's been a tenant in there for 6 months, but because they've been there 3 years, we can't just chuck them out, and there's no way of forcing them to pay. You know, I don't know what's going on, but that episode that I saw came into my head, and it's making me worried as to, you know, this is probably one of the reasons why the rent money is the rise in housing cost is going up and up and up. Why? Because some people are not paying rent because they're just saying, I can't afford it, I'm broke, and the government isn't getting these people out. And because the government isn't getting these people out, these houses are not free. The person who owns the house is losing out on the rent, and it's a complete mess. Why would you want to pay tax on something when there's no guarantee that the government will help you get out a tenant if they stop paying? You know, you need to have some set regulations when it comes to housing. It's a really important thing. You need to you know, you need to find out, you need to have some sort of computer system, some sort of AI computer system that has all the different houses registered, who owns them, and who's you know, renting them out, who's living, and the cost of it. If the market does go up, then it should go up for everyone. You know, instead of saying we're going to increase this house by £400 each month, and these ones are going to be still stuck at the lower rent. Why? Because we can't get them out and they can't afford to pay, and you know, stuff like this. You know, if the house market was more even, and they were forced to pay more, and say if they can't, they move out, well, then more people will move in, and then the gap basically between what some people are paying and what other people are paying for the same house in the same area, the same sort of niceness, if you've put more energy or more like fireplaces, more features in a house, you would expect it to be more. But you know, Zoopla has pictures of all the houses and like what they look like when they're being rented out. If you're trying to rent out a property, you put a picture of the house, and that last picture that you go should be sort of what it's judged at, because I'm assuming the people will come in and probably renovate it. But yeah, they might make it look worse, they might make it look better, but on the whole, the last time you rented it, that should be the image that it goes by. If you have made changes, I guess, like if you put a front porch in or put a garage in the front or something, maybe Google might even be able to recognize the changes like that and increase the price. But yeah, there should be some sort of leveled ground. This is the market rate, you pay the market rate. Now if the market rate starts increasing and you no longer can afford to be in that place, then you need to move out into a smaller house, maybe a smaller bedroom. You can get bedrooms where they're literally just like a meter across with a tiny bedroom or with a tiny bed in it. That's like a bunk bed, and you have sort of a sofa or chair, a TV underneath, and then you have a bed on the top. If you have a boy and a girl and you've only got a 2-bedroom flat, you can convert that second bedroom into 2 different rooms. I don't know how the windows would work. You might even need to add in a window or something, but you can do it. And I feel like if you're renting, you need to rent a property that's smaller if you can't afford it, and not just look for taxpayers, because not just start living off the taxpayers' money to keep you in there, because this is why the market is rising. And I think it would be also good to be able to buy a house within a couple of days or a week. This house is on sale, it's got this amount, and if there was a system that had all the sort of checks, so when you buy and sell a house, you need to do certain checks, but if all these checks were actually uploaded onto the computer, that way if you buy a house, the person who's buying can type in the property, look to see all the checks, not need to do anything more, unless of course the checks need to be updated, and in which case you might need someone to go around and just update them, and then of course you update it onto the system. But if you have like some big housing system that shows all the houses, all the owners, all the renters, all the rent money, and when the market goes up, it goes up for everyone, and therefore the tenants have to not have this sort of debate with the owners of the property, but rather have a debate with the sort of the average market of what the average person should pay. And if they can't pay, then they need to move out to a different property. And I think something like that is a fair thing, and the taxpayer should actually be responsible for doing that. Why? Because they if they're wanting to get like right now it's 40% if you're owning a huge amount of money, which I think is totally ridiculous. It should never be that high. But if they're charging 25% tax on everything, then technically you should be paying money on the houses that you're renting out. And therefore if people are in a house and say, I'm just not going to pay this month, the taxpayer is losing out £250. So if you are paying tax money for houses that you're renting out, I don't think it should be that high. I think it should be more like 10%. But if people are paying 10% on every single house that's being rented out, but if they got the assurity that if they didn't pay 1 month, and if you tried to get them to pay the next month, maybe you could let them off 1 month. Maybe if they refuse to pay, you can say, okay, they haven't paid this month, I'll go to the sort of the debt collectors or whatever, and there's a system in place that will charge free of charge. With the person that my sister's dating someone, and he's he's got someone in there. Apparently they didn't pay for 3 months, and he reported it, had to spend £300 on reporting it. They waited a month and a month and another month, and then I'll just take it. Hello?